The story of the week and the story of the offseason continues to be Brandon Aiyuk and whether or not him and the Niners are going to come to an agreement on a contract extension. And since he set up that meeting with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan on Monday, the big question, how did the meeting go? We haven't had an answer to that question until now on this beautiful Wednesday, June 26th of 2024. According to Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, he said today that Aiyuk and the Niners had a good and productive meeting. Let's first recap the last couple of days to set the table here for those of you who do not know. On Sunday, Brandon Aiyuk posted on Instagram that he was flying to the Bay Area. PJ, private jet, Bay Area as the geo tag. It looked as though his son was knocked out, taking a nap, looking very, very comfortable, by the way, in a recliner. Must be nice to fly on the PJ. And that started a lot of speculation. Is Aiyuk flying to the Bay Area to sign that contract? Well, that's not necessarily the case and wasn't necessarily the case because on Monday, Ryan Clark, former NFL safety and current NFL analyst, said on ESPN that Aiyuk flying to the Bay Area to have a meeting with the San Francisco 49ers. He called it. His agent Ryan Williams of Athletes First, best friend of John Lynch, also present. So too were the head coach and the general manager in Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. On Tuesday, after Adam Schefter had reported that there were trade conversations between the Niners and the Commanders earlier this offseason, Aiyuk responded to a screenshot of that report on Instagram and said, "But I thought the Niners were never trying to trade me," which brings us to current day, and that is Wednesday with the Pelissero report. So let's get to the latest. We flipped the page to what Pelissero had to expand on and say. Aiyuk and the 49ers brass met on Monday at Aiyuk's request. This was a good meeting. Both sides said things that needed to be said, and they're going to keep working. It's important to note here, there's never been a trade request from Brandon Aiyuk. That has not changed. The 49ers' stance hasn't changed either. Despite getting trade calls on Aiyuk going back to draft week, they're moving forward, and they want Aiyuk to be a part of the team for 2024. What happens from here? I'm going to expand on that coming up here in just a moment, but a couple of takeaways from what Pelissero had to say. Of course, it's a positive that it was a good meeting. And when you have a meeting, when things have gotten a little bit personal, it's important to be honest, to share your feelings. That, in turn, is very, very productive. So both sides saying things that needed to be said means that it was a quality conversation. If you're in a relationship and that relationship is not going well and you keep your frustrations bottled in, all of that will accumulate over time and lead to bigger problems. So for Aiyuk to be honest, and for the Niners to be honest, that is part of a productive conversation. The fact that they can meet is obviously a good sign. It means that blood isn't boiling to the point where both sides hate one another, because sometimes work negotiations and sports contract negotiations can get to that point where the relationship is not reconcilable. So both sides from here, according to Pelissero, will go their separate ways, enjoy July 4th. But to me, clearly both sides are still at an impasse. Otherwise, a deal would have gotten done. We would have been live here on the 49ers Report talking about a contract extension for Brandon Aiyuk. But another positive spin, glass half full approach here. There's always time to get a deal done. And right now, there is plenty of time to get a deal done. Training camp doesn't get underway for nearly another month. And conversations can get to a point where a deal can strike very, very quickly. Of course, the big looming question, if a deal is done and gets done, how much will the Brandon Aiyuk contract extension be? Especially at this particular position in wide receiver where the market has taken off and exploded multiple times this offseason. Couple of details I want to pass along. First, you look at the highest paid wide receivers per year. This is average annual value. Some people like to say that AAV doesn't matter. It does matter. To be in the NFL, to be a professional athlete, you have to be a cutthroat competitor. And part of that is having bragging rights with your salary. Some players want to be known as the highest paid player at their position per year. There are some bragging rights that come with that. And you look at this list, it's a pretty good indication of who are the best wide receivers in the NFL. Okay, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, they're certainly on that list. As part of this conversation, the wide receiver market has exploded, and some of these wideouts this offseason have gotten overpaid, and the Niners, in waiting, the price tag for Aiyuk has gone up. But highest paid wide receivers per year, where does Brandon Aiyuk fit in this range here? Justin Jefferson, $35 million. A.J. Brown, $32 million. Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, $30 million per season. Jalen Waddle, average annual value of $28.25. Devontae Adams, he signed that deal a couple of years ago. So the market has really drastically changed since then. $28 million. Cooper Kupp, $26.7. Devontae Smith, $25. Nico Collins at $24.25. And DK Metcalf, $24 even. That's per year. But guaranteed money is going to be pivotal in these negotiations as well. And you look at who is at number 10. Aiyuk, I imagine, because he's been the better, more productive, and is the younger wide receiver as compared to his counterpart in Deebo Samuel, wants more in AAV, and Deebo's right around $24 million, and he wants more guaranteed money. So could Aiyuk go to the negotiating table and say, I want between 60, 70 plus million dollars of guaranteed money per year if it's, let's say, a contract that spans between 3 to 5 years. He is not going to touch Justin Jefferson's AAV or the guaranteed money. That's historic right there. $110 million. A.J. Brown set the record before J.J. did. $32 million per year and $84 million for a wide receiver in guaranteed cash. But Aiyuk can say, I'm better than Amon-Ra St. Brown. What if I had the targets of Amon-Ra St. Brown? My production would be that caliber. So I deserve to get in the range of what Amon-Ra St. Brown got in AAV as well as guaranteed money. And that's why there could be that impasse. And that's why maybe a deal has not gotten done. Because Aiyuk has a number in mind that is too high for the Niners' liking. And the Niners' offer right now is too low for the liking of Brandon Aiyuk. What is your best Aiyuk contract projection? I've released mine here on this show on multiple occasions, so you let me know down in the comment section. I think he gets around $28 million per year. I'm going to continue to go with that. He comes down a little bit, Niners go up. They get a deal done. BA, number 11, back in a Niner uniform for years to come, and he continues that connection alongside Brock Purdy. Next part of this conversation is this. Is this why the Niners are hesitant to give Aiyuk a new deal? Because of his usage, how Kyle Shanahan utilizes and runs his offensive system, and Aiyuk's role in it. Warren Sharp put together some fascinating numbers on X, and let's relay those numbers to the audience here. Important context if you're comparing Brandon Aiyuk's stats to other wide receivers. Since trading for Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers throw the ball at the 32nd rate in the NFL. That's last, by the way, in the NFL. They pass on only 51.8% of offensive snaps, and they've called only 1,643 offensive snaps. That's 28th in the NFL. You compare that to Justin Jefferson's of the Minnesota Vikings, for example. Minnesota, number 2 in pass rate, 65.9%. Number 4 in total offensive snaps, 1,816. Way more opportunities to accumulate counting stats for a wide receiver versus the 32nd pass rate and 28th in total snaps. On a personal level, this hampers Aiyuk's opportunities to accrue counting stats. There have been 28 wide receivers with 100-plus grabs the last 1.5 years. Out of 28 wide receivers on a per-game basis, Justin Jefferson, 10.5 targets, number 2. 7.1 receptions, number 4. Aiyuk, on the other hand, in targets, 6.5, 28th. Receptions, 4.7, 25th. So in turn, it's what I talked about when talking about comparing Amon-Ra St. Brown to Aiyuk. Fewer opportunities limits Aiyuk's receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, etc. when comparing him to other wide receivers. And that's why there could be a gap in these contract negotiations right now as we sit here at the end of June. And it's a fair question for San Francisco from an organizational, operational standpoint. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Parag, coaching staff, organization, Jed York, they're probably looking at one another saying, do we want to pay $28 to $30 million per year for a wide receiver when we sign McCaffrey to that extension? We're going to continue to be a run-heavy offense, and we like to spread the football around. It's a valid question. Be sure to give me a follow on X. Give me a follow on Instagram. Both platforms blowing up right now. Put out my thoughts, opinions, short-form content as far as videos go on those pages at Chase_Senior. Don't be a stranger. Say what's up, and we'll catch you next time here on the show.